Charlotte into the conversation. Charlotte, thank you for being here. You serve as the Chief Visionary Officer for Reid Rodell. Tell us a little bit about the business, how long you've been doing it, and how you service and help DC residents.
Absolutely. Thank you, John. Good afternoon. So Reid Rodell Events, so we're a DC-based events firm. We do everything from weddings, political fundraisers, nonprofit events, and we do basically A through Z event planning. And we've been fortunate enough to work with everyone from the president to, you know, your grandmother.
Which president?
44.
Okay.
The best. So, but we have been in business. We were two different individual companies that came together 7 years ago. We have 30 years together, collective experience, my business partner and I, and we have used our expertise to just do the gamut of events and be able to be a part of life celebrations throughout the city.
So the pandemic was obviously, or is obviously, really hard on the events business. So how have you navigated it, and what kind of pivots did you make throughout the pandemic?
The P word, John, that's a tough word for us. We really, obviously the pandemic disrupted everything that we knew, everything we were comfortable with. So we learned very quickly, things shut down very quickly. So we canceled 95% of our events within a few weeks. So that was a tough period to go through. But what helped us transition was that we had so many clients that were in tough positions, like nonprofits that were expecting this huge event to carry them forward. So we had to find creative ways to help them continue to raise funds, despite that we were moving into a virtual world that they weren't familiar with, and still find creative ways to connect them with their audiences and fundraise during a very difficult time. So that was our biggest, one of the biggest challenges was losing that business, but the blessing was we were able to help our clients that were in really tough positions find creative ways to move forward.
So Mayor Bowser yesterday announced part of our reopening will happen in sort of two steps, May 21st and June 11th. How do you start planning for those two dates, and has your phone been ringing since that announcement, and what does that mean to your business?
Absolutely. So that's great news for the events industry, the entertainment world, venues. For us, we ramped down so quickly, or we shut down very quickly. We will be ramping up in a slower fashion just because not all of the venues will be open that we are partners with. Some of our partners are no longer in business. Some of our retail partners that are rental companies. So things have changed. The landscape is different since the pandemic. And so we are going to just take our time, reestablish those partnerships, and just check in on our relationships and make sure that we're in a good place to ramp up slowly, but in the right way.
Well, and Kathy, I see you're shaking your head when we were talking about ramping up. So what do you think happens kind of in the next few days and over the next few weeks as we talk about May 21st and June 11th?
Yeah, I will say that the key is ramping up, and what we are trying to reinforce, first I have to back up and say we are delighted, and this is really the best news, barring everything that goes into the considerations of reopening. I mean, the restaurant industry has been hit hard, and they are very much hopeful that they can plan a little bit now to think about how they are reopening in a way that works for their business. Everybody has to think about what has been put in place currently, what they may keep in place, how they may rehire, re-engage a workforce. So there is a lot to consider, but what I want people to know is that they can do it at their own pace without the restrictions, but knowing that right now they can plan in a way that makes sense for them for the summer, for the fall. And as we are delighted that we are reopened, we want to stay open. We want people to be kind to each other, safe, and play their part to make sure that we can stay reopened going forward.
Oh, and I talked about it when we opened. We really need people to focus on getting vaccinated, so making sure your team members, and I know sometimes there's a bit of reluctance or even just lack of understanding of where to go to get it. So those conversations about vaccination are going to be so important. And then mask wearing. So we're all outside right now. We're vaccinated, so we're not wearing a mask. But we do still need to wear masks. It's still going to be part of our effort. So vaccine and masks are the two items. How do you kind of keep that as part Charlotte. How do you use your events to have those conversations?
Well, we really don't have an option because there's so many different levels of people's comfort.
Yep.
So some folks are ready to just, be out at the beach with 1 million people or be out at sporting events, which is wonderful. So it's really about your comfort level. What we've seen across the board is everyone is now saying, we ask them, what's your COVID safety plan? We know we're in the middle of this, we're transitioning, we see light at the end of the tunnel, but how can we still make your guest feel comfortable and be able to celebrate in style, but be very safe with those particular things in place. So mask wearing is really what we're asking for. People are sending in their copies of their vaccination for private dinners. The staff has to be vaccinated. The chef, anyone that's touching the food or touching anything coming to set up, we're asking either they come in early if they're not, and they wear their mask, and we just have protocols in place that we are not, that we're really strict about because we just don't want to be the example. We want to set a great example on being on the other side of this and celebrating milestones.
So we talked a little bit about the pivots that everybody had to make. So we all have those stories to share, but you've probably thought of some fun ways to actually help promote your clients, help with the fundraising. What are some of those activities or tactics that will stay in place even past the pandemic?
I think without a doubt the virtual element, because we were able to use the virtual element, Zoom and the other platforms, to be able to reach a much wider audience. So while we were all we felt very disconnected in the first few months of this, Zoom connected us in ways we could have never imagined. So we were able to hire a DJ from California, we were able to get a chef from Miami. You can't get all those elements in place usually in a virtual event without flying people in. I mean, an in-person event. So the blessing was we were able to bring in unique personalities and really layer events in a unique way on a virtual platform that we can't do in person. So that's been one of the fun things, is bringing in a surprise or having a birthday party or something with a surprise element, because all we did was add them to a Zoom call. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, so we're actually thinking about it as we think about sort of those incentives to get folks vaccinated, that kind of different experience. Tomorrow we're going to be out at Audi Field from 4 to 8 p.m. Folks can actually take their vaccine on the field. So you'll literally take the shot. It'll be J&J, so one and done shot on the field. And then you'll be able to actually go onto the pitch. I'm sorry, I'm saying field. The word is pitch, I'm told. Go onto the pitch and actually take a shot on goal. So it's a fun experience, and it's a memorable one as you get your vaccine. So that's tomorrow, 4 to 8 p.m. So we need the industry's help, though. How do we think of those creative ideas? We also have bit.ly/TakeTheShotDC, which is where businesses can step forward and say, we want to donate this good or service to people who are getting vaccinated. Any kind of ideas that you've heard, Kathy, from your team?
So we hear from a lot of our restaurateurs and chefs who are doing incentives similarly. You come into our restaurant, if you've been vaccinated, show us that you've been vaccinated, we'll give you an appetizer, we'll give you a drink, we'll just encouraging not only rewarding those who are doing it, but encouraging others to get it done. So I think we're going to see a lot of creativity in the next month in particular. We got to keep driving people to get vaccinated. So we fully plan on engaging the industry to do that.
Charlotte, what do you think?
I think that the sky's the limit. I think there's so many opportunities to be creative. You could have a movie night and, give away free popcorn, or have a partner with one of our local beer companies. Like DC has so much to offer, and we have some of the most unique backdrops to be able to go down on the mall and have access to that, and to be able to incorporate the health, getting DC and the world back to normal, or back to a new normal. I think there's just tremendous opportunities just using our great backdrops, like the museums, all of our national parks. But there's lots we can do. But free always works. I know last week for Cinco de Mayo they did the event at Kennedy Center Reach, and the line was around the block, and I'm like, are these people that excited about the beer or the shot? And you never know. So you continue to offer fun stuff for different audiences, and I think you can capture a wider group of people.
So I got teased because that morning, I did a hit on Fox 5, and I said that maybe it'll be a great afternoon at the Kennedy Center to bring a date. And everybody laughed at me. They teased me. They said, who's going to bring a date to get a shot? but we actually met a couple. The husband worked down the street, asked his partner to come on down, and they got the shot together at the Kennedy Center. So, Charlotte, to your point, people want that like unique experience, and the beer helped maybe, but also just doing it in a unique, fun place. So, I'm going to just kind of ask both of you, either one of you jump in, but what are you most hopeful about? Mayor Bowser talks about DC Hope all the time. For us, it stands for health, opportunity, prosperity, and equity. But what are you most hopeful about as we think about sort of reopen and what comes next?
You want me to go?
Absolutely.
So I would say I'm most hopeful for how resilient we have already been, and knowing that this industry is in a position to be able to succeed going forward. They're resetting a lot of how they do business, why they do business. A lot of the lessons learned over the last year are being translated and will continue, really, I would say, for the next 10 years in terms of consumer behavior. And it is all going to be rooted in offering new lines of revenue for these very small businesses in DC. I'm also really hopeful that we've created so much unity as a city, and I think that is only going to continue going forward.
And I would say, John, I think of that acronym, we have so many acronyms in the city, but, I really love the equity piece, because through this, we've dealt with a lot of things this last year with the racial strife and just everything that's happened, and I've seen just some beautiful equity or examples of equity with businesses getting exposure, people really rising up and supporting entrepreneurs in an amazing way. So for me, that gives me a great amount of hope, because small businesses are really the engine for every community. So to see that and to see that love given to businesses like a place like here at La Conseca, I think is just really, really, really something that's crystallized beautifully through this pandemic.
All right, and I've got a question for both of you. Kathy, I'll go to you first, and then Charlotte, this is going to be your last shot, so I want you to hit it out of the ballpark like you've been doing this whole time, because there are going to be a lot of job opportunities in the industry. What's your advice to somebody who's maybe thinking about, maybe this is an industry I want to get into? What would be your advice, especially now when there's going to be a lot of businesses hiring? So maybe Kathy and then Charlotte.
Yeah, this is an industry that hires, pre-pandemic 65,000 people just in the district. And we know that we want to get back to that level in terms of workforce. What I know and what I've seen is that this is an industry that offers so much opportunity. You can come in on the ground and you can leave as an owner. And that is the story that I want those who are interested in re-engaging the workforce to know about this local industry. Is the opportunity is there, they're resetting in really creative ways, and there are roles that people can play if they're interested in being part of a great workforce.
Right. And Charlotte?
And I would say, John, I go back to the entrepreneur piece, because I think this quiet time for many gave people an idea to really explore their passions, and I've seen lots of different small businesses pop up, people calling with questions about how to do things. So for me, I'm excited about these small businesses again that are coming to life, and either, as an entrepreneur, you have to have a thick skin and be able to go through something, but if you've come through this time and decided that's what you want to do, I think that's a tremendous opportunity to be able to work for yourself and to create, the life that you imagine.
Well, Charlotte, before I bring in Virginia and Andre, how do people find you? How do people find you and work with you as they think about their events for this summer and beyond?
Absolutely. Thank you, John. You can reach me at Charlotte at Reid Rodell, or all of our social media platforms are at Reid Rodell, and that's ReidRodell. We're everywhere.
Fantastic. Charlotte, thank you for joining us. I'm going to keep Kathy behind as we talk a little bit more about the Shop, Eat, Play, Stay. I got it right? Thank you.
Right.
As we talk more about that and how that's going to help our businesses. So